Enron wasn't losing money. It just wasn't making any either. But on paper, it was the most profitable company in America. In the year 2000, Enron was the seventh largest corporation in the United States. It was voted America's most innovative company 6 years in a row. It controlled the power grid, the gas lines, and the broadband networks. If you lived in America in the 90s, Enron wasn't just a business, it was a miracle. But miracles don't exist on Wall Street. In just 24 days, a company worth $60 billion evaporated. There was no foreign invasion, no terrorist attack, no market crash. Enron died because of a lie so complex it took thousands of people to tell it and only a handful to understand it. To understand the fraud, you have to understand the boredom. Before the private jets and the strip clubs, Enron was boring. It was a natural gas pipeline company. They owned pipes, they moved gas, they collected fees. It was safe, it was profitable, and for Ken Lay, the founder, it wasn't enough. Ken Lay was a man who wanted to be Secretary of Commerce. He collected politicians like baseball cards. But to fuel his political ambitions, he needed his stock price to soar. And pipelines don't soar. Pipelines rust. He needed a new vision. He found it in a consultant from McKinsey named Jeffrey Skilling. If Ken Lay was the face of Enron, Jeff Skilling was the brain. Skilling looked at the company's physical assets, the trucks, the pipelines, the plants, and he sneered. He told Lay, cut the pipes. He argued that the real money wasn't in delivering gas, it was in trading it. Skilling wanted to turn Enron into a gas bank, a stock market for energy. It was a radical idea, and it worked. Suddenly, Enron wasn't a utility company, it was a logistics company, a hedge fund disguised as a gas company. But Skilling had one condition for joining Enron full-time. He demanded they change the accounting system. He wanted to use something called mark-to-market accounting. This is the moment the bomb was planted. We need to stop and explain mark-to-market accounting, because without this, there is no Enron. In traditional accounting, if you signed a 10-year deal to supply gas, you book the profit each year as the cash actually hits your bank account. You make $1, you write down $1. Simple. Jeff Skilling's mark-to-market was different. Under this rule, if Enron signed a 10-year deal today, they could estimate the total profit that deal might make over the next decade and book it all today. Think about that. Imagine you open a lemonade stand. You haven't sold a single cup, but you project that over the next 10 years, you will sell 1 million cups. So on day one, you tell the bank, I made $1 million today. The bank says, show me the cash. And you say, I don't have the cash, but I have the idea. This allowed Enron to become a time machine. They were stealing profits from the future to make the present look rich. But there was a catch. If you book 10 years of profit today, what do you do next year? To keep the stock price up, you have to do a bigger deal, and then a bigger one. It is a beast that is never full. Take the Blockbuster deal. Enron partnered with Blockbuster to stream movies. The technology didn't work. Blockbuster walked away. But Enron, they had already used mark-to-market to estimate the partnership was worth $110 million. They booked $110 million profit on a deal that generated $0. Jeff Skilling was hailed as a genius. But inside the building, the panic was setting in. Because while the accounting book showed billions in profit, the bank accounts were empty. You can't pay salaries with future theoretical earnings. You need cash. Enron was bleeding cash. They needed a way to hide the blood. Enter Andrew Fastow, the CFO. If Skilling was the visionary, Fastow was the plumber. He was the guy who made the toilets flush when the pipes were clogged with debt. Fastow created a network of special purpose entities. Think of them as invisible backpacks. Here's the shell game. Enron has a failing asset, maybe a power plant in India that's losing millions. If they keep it, their stock drops. So Fastow creates a fake company, let's call it Raptor. Enron sells the failing power plant to Raptor. Suddenly, Enron has sold an asset. They book a profit. The debt is gone. But who owns Raptor? Enron does. It was Enron selling things to itself, using money borrowed from banks, guaranteed by Enron stock. It was a circle of insanity. Fasto created hundreds of these companies: Jedi, Chuco, LJM. He hit $30 billion of debt in these ghost companies. And the worst part, Fasto wasn't doing this for free. He set up these deals so that he personally took a cut. He stole $45 million from his own company while he was hiding its losses. The board of directors approved it. The lawyers approved it. The auditors, Arthur Andersen, stamped it. Everyone was making too much money to ask if it was real. By the year 2000, the fraud had to grow to stay alive. They turned their eyes to California. The state had just deregulated its electricity market. Enron's traders saw fresh meat. They realized they could manipulate the power grid to spike prices. On recorded phone lines, Enron traders were heard telling power plant operators to find a little bit of trouble with the plants and just shut them down. Their motto was simple: burn, baby, burn. They engineered blackouts. They forced power plants to shut down in the middle of summer. When the lights went out, the price of electricity skyrocketed. Enron made $2 billion from the California crisis. When asked about the suffering in California, Jeff Skilling joked, "The difference between the Titanic and California is that the Titanic had the lights on when it went down. The hubris had reached a boiling point. The gods were about to strike back." August 1st, 2001. The music slows down. The dot-com bubble has burst. The economy is cooling, and Enron's stock price begins to wobble. Remember those shell companies? They were backed by Enron stock. If the stock price fell below a certain line, the shell companies would crash. And if they crashed, all that hidden debt would flood back onto Enron's books instantly. Sharon Watkins, a vice president, saw the math. She wrote an anonymous memo to Ken Lay. She wrote, "I am incredibly nervous that we will implode in a wave of accounting scandals." Lay thanked her, and then he asked his lawyers if he could fire her. On August 14th, the captain jumped ship. Jeff Skilling, the architect, suddenly resigned. He cited personal reasons. Wall Street panicked. If the genius is leaving, what does he know? The pressure mounted. On an earnings call, an analyst asked Skilling why Enron couldn't produce a straightforward balance sheet. Skilling, stressed and arrogant, leaned into the microphone and called the analyst an asshole. That one word was the sound of the facade cracking. By October, the losses were announced: $600 million, then $1.2 billion. The shell companies collapsed. The debt came home. As the ship sank, Ken Lay told employees to buy the stock. He told them the company was stronger than ever. At the same time, executives were quietly selling $1 billion worth of their own shares. On December 2nd, 2001, Enron filed for bankruptcy. The smartest guys in the room had locked the doors and set the building on fire. 20,000 people lost their jobs. $2 billion in pension plans, retirement savings for secretaries, linemen, janitors was wiped out. They got nothing. Andy Fasto pled guilty. He served 6 years. Jeff Skilling was sentenced to 24 years. Kenneth Lay was convicted on all counts, but 3 months before his sentencing, while on vacation in Aspen, his heart howled out. He died before he spent a day in prison. Enron changed everything. It destroyed Arthur Andersen, one of the oldest accounting firms in the world. It birthed the Sarbanes-Oxley Act to police corporate fraud. But ask yourself, has it really changed? Every time you hear about a tech startup valued at billions despite making zero profit, every time you see adjusted EBITDA instead of real earnings, you're seeing the ghosts of Enron. They say numbers don't lie, but the people who write the numbers do. Enron proved that if you tell a lie big enough and profitable enough, the whole world will play along, until the bill comes due. This is Red Ink history. Don't trust a projection, trust the cash.